And welcome back to another Paul's Aquariums video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make an awesome foam wall background like this and how to set up a little paludarium. Paludarium is half water, half land. That is all live plants. There are some cool little fish in there. Let's get started and show you what you need. Main things you're going to need is an aquarium. I'm going to use this Dimax GS series low iron tank. Lovely size, it's about 45 centimeters by I think about 30 centimeters or so. I'm going to use this stuff here, which is your PondMax Black Waterfall foam. Works perfectly in water, out of water. Once it's all sealed, it's non-toxic. It is black, it is foam, it is fun. Yeah, you should be able to pick that up from most aquarium places and pet shops. And I'm going to use this stuff. So this is called Ideal Seal. It is a polymer. It is like silicone, but it doesn't have that horrible ammonia smell. It is non-toxic, and it'll even cure underwater and in wet environments. It is one of the best sealants that we've actually used. Awesome, awesome stuff. It doesn't melt stuff or anything like that as well, and it's as strong as silicone. You wouldn't want to make a fish tank out of it, but you can glue rocks together with it. You can glue glass to glass, all sorts of stuff. So what we're going to do with this, oh, I nearly forgot the pump. And we're going to use a little mini pump. This is a 200 litre an hour Dimax power head. Anything about that sort of size is going to work for a small tank. Obviously, the bigger the tank, the bigger the pump needs to be. The cool thing about these tanks is they come with a glass lid that fits perfectly inside the tank. So all we're going to do is we're actually going to glue this lid down like that. Well, that's on the side. We're going to glue the lid to the side, and then that's going to give us our extra area where we're going to attach our rocks and our foam and our cool stuff. So let's move all this stuff out the way and glue the lid to the tank. I've got the tank on its side. I have put a few rows of Ideal Seal on the back of the tank, and I've gently pressed the lid on top of it. I've got a little bit of glass just sitting underneath this on the desk just to have that nice and level. We're going to let this cure for a fair few hours, and then we're going to work out where our pump is going to go. And ideally, I think we're going to put our pump down the bottom. And then we're going to put a little bit of polystyrene pieces. We're going to glue them in with our Ideal Seal, and then we're going to go from there. And the polystyrene is attached to the background with our Ideal Seal. So we're going to let this cure. And the reason we've got this foam here instead of just using the spray foam is it's going to save us spray foam, and this is going to be glued to the back. So it's just going to be a little bit more rigid structure, and the whole thing is just not going to fall off the back eventually, which can happen if you start attaching rocks and stuff to the foam and making it super, super heavy. So once this is cured, we will come back with our spray foam. Well, you got to work fast with that foam, don't you? So all I've done is pushed our black lava rock into the foam. We're going to let this cure overnight. It's probably going to expand a little bit more, and then we're going to deal with it in the morning. This is where we are. We've got a tube over our tube, so hopefully we will be able to pull that out. Well, we'll be able to pull that out. We'll just hack around a little bit of this foam, because when our water trickles down, we don't want it to just go down one way. We want it to trickle with the rocks. What we have used pretty much our whole can of foam super, super quick. So all these will be permanently in the foam in the morning. It is the next morning. Our foam has fully cured. Yes, it looks a bit weird, but what we're going to do next is hack away of a lot of this foam because it has expanded so much. And we're going to make our rocks our higher points. So then we've got the water trickling through, down and over the rocks. So yes, we did kind of use a little bit too much foam, but it's impossible to know exactly how much it is going to expand. We're going to hack away at this and we'll be back. It is a few hours later. I have removed lots of foam. So our little nozzle here where our water is going to come out, the ideal thing to happen is our water is going to trickle along and go through both ways. So we're going to have to attach a rock or something there, otherwise the water is just going to jet out and go way out of the tank, which we do not want, obviously. You can adjust the flow on the little pumps, and that's the nozzle down the bottom where the pump is going to be. But a rock there is just going to diffuse the water and it's going to trickle down. So next thing we're going to do is get some driftwood. We're going to push the driftwood into a polystyrene sort of background. My driftwood is now in place. So a lot of these are wedged in and then just glued with the ideal seal. It only takes a few hours to cure and be strong enough to sort of play around with. So now that we've got our wood in place, we may add a few extra structures and stuff to the actual tank that's not attached to the background, but we want enough access so we can actually get into the tank. And if we have heaps and heaps of stuff sticking out looking awesome, there's no way we're going to actually access the tank. So next thing we are going to do is suss out our pump and get some sponge in the bottom, so when the water trickles through, we've got some sort of filtration. And I have a couple of inches of water in the bottom just to get the pump going, so hopefully it'll all work. A little bit of black sponge around the pump, so when we turn it on, it will suck the water through the sponge and then back up the back wall. So it's not going to get clogged with any pebbles or anything like that. Also glued that rock in place to stop the water jetting out, and the rock works perfectly. So that's about the ideal flow of water we want. So it seems to be trickling down each of the little tiny nooks and crannies that we've sort of dug into the back wall. And because it is foam, we can actually cut a little bit more foam in places just to make the water flow a little bit better. I have jumped again. So this is about an hour or two later. I have started planting moss on the back wall, roughly in all the little areas where the water is going to trickle down. A little bit on the driftwood as well. I'm not entirely sure how high I'm going to have the water level in here, but I'm thinking maybe about a third deep with water. So most of it is just the water trickling down into the main tank. I've also put a few rocks around our sponge where our pump is, just to stop any of the substrate getting caught in the pump, because you don't want little bits and pieces getting caught in the impeller. Then you have to keep pulling it apart all the time. The way that this is going to work is the sponge is going to collect a lot of the gunk so it doesn't get clogged into the impeller. Hopefully. It should work perfectly fine. We've done this before. The substrate layer we're using to start with, this stuff is called laterite, which is a slow release mineral fertilizer for plants. So not only is it going to feed whatever plants we have in the substrate, it is also going to go into the water and feed our moss. So next thing we're going to do is either cap this off with gravel, or we're going to put a little bit of aqua earth, which is another plant-based medium, and then we're going to fill them up with water. How cool is that looking? Yeah, it's looking a lot better. It will look a lot better soon. And we have jumped about another 3 or 4 days. I have added more terrestrial plants. This stuff here is Tillandsia, which is a type of bromeliad, or sort of from the bromeliad family, otherwise known as air plants. Super easy plants to keep alive. They don't like water dripping on them, so you want to attach them to your branches that are away from the waterfall. All our moss has started to settle in, so it's just starting to get little new shoots, but that will eventually take over the whole back wall. And because we've got a couple of different types of moss, it's going to look kind of cool depending on which moss grows faster than the other one. I've also added some plants under the water. So these are called crypt plants. They're called crypt plants because they will creep along the bottom. I didn't end up putting aqua earth on top of our laterite, so I've just used a normal black pebble. So crypt plants are a low nutrients plant, so they don't need high nutrients to grow or anything like that. So we're not really going to have a full carpeted tank. The crypt plants will get a little bit out of hand if you don't trim them. Just depends on how much room you want. And because the water volume is relatively low in this little tank setup, I've only added a few fish, and these are platinum medakas. So platinum medakas, otherwise known as rice fish, are a cold water fish. They only max out about that 4 to 5 centimeters. So it's super cool, very hardy little fish for a little tank setup like this. You could always add shrimp or something else as well. Obviously, we don't add shrimp with the medakas because they will nip on them in a small environment until the plants fully take over. And as I said before, once the moss settles in, it is going to look super, super awesome. I'll quickly show you this tank. This is about 8 or 9 months old. but that is what you're going to expect from the moss growing up all the back wall and everything. It will go crazy once it settles in. But if you did enjoy this video, click the thumbs up so I know. Feel free to subscribe, that'll help the wonderful algorithm and all that wonderful stuff. And if you've got any questions, comment in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks heaps for watching.